welcome to the PLAC Legislative Interns podcast. I'm your host, and my name is Sokomba Carl Egbeja, the People's Speaker. I'm not here alone. I have very beautiful people with me this morning. Please, do you mind introducing yourselves, my lovely discussants?
All right, thank you very much. My name is Idam Okotengod. I'm from the south of the nation, Ebonyi State. Thank you very much.
My name is Adetejumadi Dola Adeniji, and I represent the beautiful people of Ogun State.
My name is Aisha Ahmed Mebrono. Well, I'm from the land of beauty.
My name is Godstime Ezekiel, and I'm from Bayelsa State.
Oh, very great. You can see we spread across the nation, so there is no interest as to a particular part.
Exactly.
We cut across Nigeria, and we're here to represent the interest of the entire nation. Interestingly, we'll be speaking on a very salient point. Of course, you know that there have been many conversations around the Rosanna report and many things of the sort in recent times. We're going to be speaking about the proliferation and duplication of government agencies in Nigeria. And I'm sure we are going to have a swell time, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, but I think first things first, there is no thing without a definition. Mr.
Very important.
Define proliferation and duplication since you are human.
Because of this thing you said, you are a good man. All right, when you talk about duplication is more or less, making something to be more than one or multiples. Okay, then proliferation is more or less, adding on what has been. That is the literal meaning of what it means. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Aisha, do you mind linking those definitions with the government agencies? Okay. So we'll have a holistic conversation.
Right, like what he said, multiple. So whenever I think of these, two words come to my mind: overlapping and multiple. We have multiple government agencies performing same functions, and because of this, their functions actually become superfluous. And
lawyer.
So one thing comes to my mind. On the 10th day of October, we in the Senate Rate Chamber, there was this lovely bill that was actually passed from second reading to the committee stage. Now, listen, it's a drug awareness and rehabilitation bill. And the debate in that red chamber that day was so hot, and I actually enjoyed every bit of it. Now, a senator came up and stood up, and he actually said that what is the use of this if we actually have NDLEA? Why can't we just...
What's the bill about?
It's about drug awareness and rehabilitation.
Okay.
And a senator came up and he was like, okay, we have NDLEA. Why can't we not just amend the act and then just put this rehabilitation to make everything just perfect? Well, I find myself aligning with his thoughts because if we have multiple agencies, what is the use?
The use of it, yeah.
You have a solid point. I remember that was the senator. The bill was sponsored by the senator representing Kano Central.
Yes.
And even at that, I think the NDLEA, as much as I know, they have a rehabilitative department, and it's very functional as much as I know. So but there's a lot of things around this. Adetejumadi, you have any thoughts?
Okay, just to add to what she said about the duplication of agencies, I would make reference to the Oresonya's report about the Fiscal Responsibility Commission. In that report, it was even asked that it be abolished and the enabling law be repealed because it was of no use. Also, it made mention of adding the Nigerian Incomes, Wages and Salaries Commission, that it should merge it with the allocation, the revenue mobilization allocation fiscal commission. Because why do you have two agencies doing the same thing? So yes, he did that.
I mean, that report touches on a lot, and you see that it's 103 pages. I mean, it's very detailed. But then, what Aisha, I'm going to ask you this question because you are a lawyer, right?
Yes,
I know you pride in being learned. So I'll particularly ask you, is there any constitutional backing? Because of course the constitution is the ground norm. So what constitutional provision makes for the permission, so to say, or the creation of the powers that the legislature have to create agencies? Can you take us on a ride through that?
Yes, they actually a lot of provisions. Let me start with Section 4, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution. It gives NAS, National Assembly, the power to actually make clear laws, and actually establish these government agencies. Now, when we are looking at Section 89, subsection 1 and 2,
my speaker.
Section 89, subsection 1 and 2, the NAS has the power to investigate. Okay, this government agency, we have created you. We are going to investigate you. We are going to see how far you are going.
Yeah.
And these are all oversight distance
functions.
Functions.
Yeah.
And when you look at Section 162, 169, they are regulating them.
Okay.
So the Constitution has elaborated on this, and it's clear.
Oh, thank
Nice.
you very much. The law. All right. So, sequel to that, how does lawmaking now mitigate the effect of proliferation, continuous creation of these government agencies? You want to go, Mr. Bayosa?
Yeah, so, lawmaking serves as a very essential tool in the governance process, especially in Nigeria. Right, and because the Constitution itself gives the National Assembly the authority to make laws for the good and effective governance of Nigeria. Now, the Constitution is clear that the National Assembly have the powers, right, to create new agencies as act of Parliament or act of the National Assembly.
Yes.
And so, for instance, you have certain agencies performing duplicate functions like the EFCC, the ICPC, and then you also have the Federal Road Safety Corps, and then
in fact, can I add the EFCC and ICPC? There are 23
other
agencies performing similar functions.
Very true.
So this is where legislature actually comes into play by ensuring that there is a clear guide for establishing new agencies, moving away from the political undertones, right? So agencies should be created to serve the purposes that other existing ones are not able to fill, right?
Yeah.
So if there are lapses, it is expected that if the existing agencies do not have the capacity to address those problems because of internal factors, we have to look inward to see that the existing ones have the capacity, the tools and the resources, both human and material resources, to be able to address those problems. So there have to be a clear criteria for establishing new agencies. And then as a lawmaking process, there can be harmonization of either new or existing agencies, right?
Excellent thoughts.
To ensure that there is no duplicate of functions.
Excellent perspectives. God's time. Thank you very much. Any additional thought?
Yeah, in addition to what my good brother from Baeza has said, God's time. Yeah, I think, and also very, very important, sir. No, and also in addition to what my lawyer have said, I think oversight function is another, backbone you should consider, because there are three major things about National Assembly. When we talk about legislature,
yes.
Thank you very much. When we talk about lawmaking, oversight functions, and then representations, and very important. But this major one is they have to go and look out. I want to bring in economics here. Sorry, in production, you look at what to produce, how to produce it, and to whom to produce it.
Yeah.
Likewise, it is obtainable in the legislature. When they carry out this oversight function. Thank you very much. They go out to the field to actually know, okay, we have EFCC, we have ICPC. What is the role of this person? What is the role of this group? So where do they overlap? How can we streamline and break this thing down so that instead of having different distance, let's call a spade, not a working implement. Do you understand there? And I believe through that means all these things can be solved as well.
Okay, we are going to touch on this as we prepare to wrap up eventually. But what do you think are the reasons behind the duplication of these agencies? Because that's a big issue.
Exactly.
Solution without cause, right?
Exactly.
So I mean, we have to do our diagnosis, prognosis before we go to proper treatment.
Exactly.
So, what then?
I feel like in aspects of administration, there is administrative inefficiency. Like we all know that some laws, there's a lacuna, and when it comes to policing implementation, there is a gap. And this gap provides for a lot of things to actually give. It gives birth to a lot of things. So this is one of the major causes actually.
I also think that there is lack of adequate research right, of existing
strong point
agencies,
strong point
parliament that actually addresses that particular issue. So I think that more or less we need to have a system where there is comprehensive research and assessment of existing frameworks before we consider the necessity to introduce new ones. I mean, we live in a system where everyone wants to sponsor a bill just to have to their name. But there is more that we need to do.
True. And I would also like to mention that political interest is very also important. One of the reasons why there are a lot of duplication of agencies. Because when you have a political interest in something, you're not focused on the national interest. You know, and some of these people or lawmakers know that they want the public's patronage, and so they just do things based on political interest, not the national interest, really.
Very, very solid point. Then, sequel to this, I have to ask, what then is the impact? Of course, negative, right? Impact of this duplication and proliferation of agencies.
Okay, when we talk about the impact, just like what you say, have the positive and negative aspect. Well, I'll come from the negative aspect. Wastage of resources. Because there will be so much stress on the budget. Exactly. So
it's evident. I mean, what's our budget reading?
It's about 47 point something trillion, right? And we're still going to borrow on top, right? To cover up the so it's really it's not funny. Not funny, seriously.
And then,
you have another point?
To add to that, sometimes it leads to bureaucratic redundancy, right? Where you have multiple agencies performing the same function. You know, government has to do with bureaucracy, so it extends the period in which decisions need to be made, right? And then it provides room for corruption as well. There seems to be some level of corruption when you have multiple interests and then people trying to like find their way into. And also, there is always conflict of interest or functions, interagency conflict.
Rivalry.
For instance, you have the road safety and then the VIO performing
almost the same.
And then even the police traffic
have a unit. Yes, they have that.
I think that this needs to be streamlined. Perhaps amending the existing legal frameworks, or either they need to merge them, or if anyone needs to be scrapped.
You're pointing at something very important, but I want to take that as the last point I would take on. But just before then, can I ask, what can the lawmakers do? They are representatives. We are passing out this word, right, to strengthen the process. So what can the lawmakers do to make for an end, or as it were, a journey to an end in the proliferation and duplication of agencies of government that is just ad infinitum, without end as it stands?
So I think that, let me come in there. I'd like to stress what the Speaker of the House did, Speaker Tambuwal Waziri. You know, in 2012, he made sure the House of Representative members went to their constituencies to conduct public hearings on the 1999 Constitution. There was supposed to be a review of this Constitution. So taking the taking public hearings to the public themselves,
to the people in the room.
Yes,
exactly. So
how do we call a private gathering a public hearing?
A public hearing, just the name.
You know what they do is they invite stakeholders. And you know, some of the stakeholders are partisan. Exactly. So you need to take it to the people. You want to be closer to the people. So like it did. It's just an example. This thing will be more effective when you bring governance to the closer to the people. So I think that when we talk about duplication of agencies, we need the people's opinion on some of these things, because they are the ones that they are serving, and they are the ones really seeing what's going on around.
So as an aside, I don't think we need to take this up, but let me say as an aside that don't we think it will increase cost of legislative cost if it's taken to the people, because a lot of these people just want their share when it now comes to them. That's a story for another day. Meanwhile, all voices must be heard. Exactly. What other things do you think the legislators can do?
I think okay, want to say something, right?
Okay. Well, I feel like the major thing is actually merger consolidation and this dissolution. I feel like all these agencies that have same functions, they can, as contained in the Orosai report. Part of the recommendations, if you actually check it, is EFCC, ICPC, Code of Conduct Bureau. It was recommended that it should actually be submerged together because of their functions. So I feel like if there is an agency with a particular function, or if an agency, if it doesn't, if they are similar function, if it's not merged together with one, it should actually be dissolved if nothing productive is coming out by abolishing the laws. And if you want to merge it together, like the agencies, I feel like you should actually amend the enacting enabling laws. Yes. To achieve something
that's a very solid point. God's time, you have additional thoughts?
So I think that there needs to be some level of increased stakeholder involvement, right, in the lawmaking process, because when you have broader stakeholder involvement, there seems to be some level of consensus building, right, that represents wider interest, right, and of course we can now get greater feedback, right, from the people themselves. Perhaps maybe they need to organize pools to get citizens' feedback directly.
Now that's strong. That's a
strong point they're making in the national assembly. So I believe that would definitely help.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very intelligent.
Okay, just to wrap it up, just in judiciary we have precedents, right? Referring back to what has happened in the law, right? I think the lawmakers should also look at. I know we have about 101 reports on these things. I think they should go and review all these things and bring it in where the experts will now, since lawmakers or National Assembly work on committees, we can bring in experts who can analyze this and put it into practice. Not only bringing out law.
We also have the experts, but it's still boils down to politics, the interest. So if the experts' results or analysis does not suit your interest,
I think we are looking out for the solution here.
Yeah, but all solid points. So can I add to that just a tiny bit point, and then we'll move on to the very next part. What can the citizens do in a bid to strengthen the process of the quality of lawmaking, and then inadvertently cut down on the proliferation of agencies in Nigeria?
So first, I think that there needs to be a reorientation, right, of how we select leaders, of how electoral process work in Nigeria. The fact remains that legislative business is very complex and very technical, and so you need people who have some level of expertise, right, and knowledge to be able to do this work. Majority of members of the current 10th Assembly, they are first-timers, which means that they need a longer period to learn. So we, as citizens, we need to be able to feel this knowledge gap that it's not about voting the person out of office. If someone is performing right, the greater time lawmakers have to learn on the job, the better they can perform, the more efficient, and then also
the question on legislative turnover.
Exactly. So we need to really reduce legislative turnover in Nigeria so that we can have more effectiveness, right, in the parliament. And of course, also we can have people who have sufficient knowledge, because it's quite a technical work, right? So you need people who have sufficient knowledge, and not just people who come in for the first time and then their expectation, what is my representative doing? And because of that pressure to show that I am doing something, which should qualify me to come back for a second term, they tend to sponsor certain bills for establishment of agencies that gets to either duplicating or complicating development effort, and of course also adding to greater costs in public expenditure and cost of governance as well.
Thank you very much. When you hear him say duplicating and complicating, this man. Okay, let's hear you.
Yes, I wanted to add something to what he said, because our youth have this mentality that the creation of these agencies will give them more job opportunities. That when you have multiple agencies, then they can enter into any one of them. So, but the idea of that kind of mindset is actually is very stereotypical. Why do I say so? Because if you have these agencies, they are not well funded. because they are already duplicated. So they are not well funded. What do you think you will gain when you enter there?
Yeah, exactly.
So you can't gain anything really. So there's no point. I feel it's better that agency should be well funded, should be well equipped, and then they can have other centers or branches around them, departments around them. That way, you know that you're focusing on one particular agency, not so many agencies.
Thank you so much. That's so smartly said. I've had such a swell time having this conversation with you, very fecund minds.
Thank you very much.
Quickly. What are the flashpoints in the national
Assembly? Very important.
So what are those things? What are those tiny things here and there that have tickled our fancy in the last
year? I think you spoke of budget. Yes, budgeting is very attractive.
That's looking at me. I'm in House of Reps, federal character. Like yesterday, we had some NJCs. We just want to look at them. Okay, how were you able to share job opportunities in the whole 36 states and capital? So we have the likes of Federal University of Transport, Daura, some, I think about 2 or 3 days came around. So we are looking at them, analyzing the nominal roles, and those that didn't balance their own, they will tell them, go back and balance it.
So thank you very much. Right, there seems to be this excitement about the budget comment in the National Assembly, and I begin to ask myself,
I can't wait.
About the budget that's
excited about the budget.
I can't wait.
It's literally everywhere. You move around, everyone is excited about the budget is coming.
Well, whatever your committees decide, they will come to me, rules and business. So
yes.
We'll make sure to cross the T's and dot the I's and see that everything goes out excellent.
Well.
Yes.
Right, but it's been a fine ride, and it will all be different shades of very beautiful moments as we go on. And as we wrap up,
you forgot to mention about the Hajj operations investigative hearing that has been going on. Because it has been intense. It's still going on. They've been having that investigative hearing for the past 3 days. And I tell you,
even yesterday, I think they had
they've been closing by 8:30, 9:10. It's been serious. So when you think people are not working, some of these lawmakers are actually working.
They are actually. They are seriously.
So thank you very much for a very, very stimulating time.
And thank you to PLAC, very important.
I mean, I'm going to say that. Thank you very much. It's been a very beautiful time here at this podcast session. We are grateful to Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, PLAC, and the European Union, and then the National Assembly, where we have had the on-site learning process. Don't forget to follow PLAC at PLAC-NG, and don't forget to be very involved with everything that PLAC does, because PLAC is here in the interest of the Nigerian nation, strengthening legislature, strengthening policy, strengthening governance. Thank you very much. See you when
next. Thank you. We appreciate